Welcome to the winter wonderland that is Fort Stanton Historic Site. My name is Tiffany Owen, and I am the instructional coordinator for Fort Stanton and Lincoln Historic Sites down here in southern New Mexico. Would you believe that Fort Stanton has already had snow this year? It's true. Parts of Lincoln County received more than 5 inches of snow, which is unusual for southern New Mexico in general, but especially atypical to have snow before Halloween. Snow turns Fort Stanton into a winter wonderland that few of our visitors get to experience. I still recall my first Garrison Day 4 years ago when my coworkers and I dressed in our historic attire and watched the heavy weather move in. The snow kept our visitors away, but we all hovered near the campfire, talking, laughing, and enjoying biscuits and coffee. It was a magical day that I will never forget. Fort Stanton has always been considered one of the most beautiful forts on the frontier, but snow turns it into a scene right out of a snow globe. On those quiet winter days when our visitors are staying warm at home, I often think about those who came to this incredibly remote post in the 1800s, and I wonder, what was it like to be so far from civilization? We often ponder the lives of the soldiers, the fort support staff, and even the laundresses, but what was it like for an officer's wife? Well, we get a glimpse into the feelings of one officer's wife from the memoir of Lydia Spencer Lane, who wrote, "Fort Stanton was a beautiful post, with the best quarters in the Army at the time, but it was like being buried alive to stay there. Nothing ever passed that way, and it was seldom a stranger came among us. There was but one mail a month." Today, it is hard to imagine a time without television, computers, video games, automobiles, shopping, and the other entertainments that fill up our lives. For millennia, most women worked from dawn to dusk, raising children, helping with the chores of the farm or ranch, and caring for the needs of her family and home. There were those few, however, who enjoyed a social status in which they could pay others to do the chores, and that left them with the time to enjoy hobbies and social activities. They were known as ladies of leisure, and this was the world to which many officers' wives had become accustomed before they found themselves in the West, which was like being transported to a desert island. Fort Stanton's military era coincided with the reign of England's Queen Victoria, a time when social influences dictated that all women, but particularly women of means, should always act in a ladylike manner. These ladies were taught the strictest manners from a young age. There were unwritten rules for every part of life that respectable women were expected to follow. They were to be quiet and modest in their language, their dress, and their behavior at all times. Stepping outside the bounds of these unwritten rules made a woman susceptible to ridicule and ostracization. Although a constant pressure on the officers' wives themselves, their feminine presence on the frontier posts created a social order and expectation that restrained the men from gambling, drinking, and many of the other vices that were common at frontier forts. Still, to the wife of an officer at a remote post like Fort Stanton, the passing of hours and days could seem like an eternity. For special occasions, the ladies often organized social events such as those that they had known back east, but boredom in between social occasions must have seemed never-ending. In accordance with Victorian sensibilities, amusements for the female mind were supposed to be proper, quiet, and not too taxing. After all, women were far too delicate for such strenuous activity. Many young women from good families had been trained in piano, but moving with an army required that a lady travel light. Carting around a croquet set or a large book collection was also out of the question. As a result, portable hobbies such as needlework, sketching, making lace doilies, and quilling provided some delicate distraction. Not familiar with that last one? Well, this very old hobby is making a comeback. In fact, quilling supplies are now readily available at most craft stores. Also known as paper filigree, quilling is the centuries-old decorative art of rolling and shaping strips of paper to create artistic designs. Although the art form may date back to ancient Egypt, it really gained popularity in Victorian times as paper became more available. Refined ladies filled their leisure hours using quilling to decorate picture frames, jewelry, furniture, purses, and to create wall art. The term quilling comes from the early practice of wrapping strips of paper around the quill of a feather, although Victorian women often used their hat pins. If you find yourself stuck inside this winter and longing for simpler times, perhaps you'd enjoy trying your hand at quilling. Although it was historically a lady's pastime, you'll get no stuffy Victorian judgment here. Quilling is a fun craft for anyone of any age. It is an especially engrossing activity for developing concentration and fine motor skills in kids. In honor of Fort Stanton's beautiful winter scenery, let's quill a snowflake. For this activity, all you need is a piece of notebook paper, a pencil, a pair of scissors, and some craft glue. Now, this will be quite different from the snowflakes that many of us learned to make in elementary school. Once you've learned a few basic shapes, you can create a beautiful snowflake. And if you share this activity with family or friends, you'll find that just like real snowflakes, no two are alike. First, cut along the lines of your notebook paper to make strips. The most basic element of quilling is wrapping a strip of paper around an object to create a coil. I suggested a pencil because it's something almost everyone has at home and it's easier for kids to handle. But for my purposes, I used the end of a paintbrush. You can use a tool as fine as a toothpick to get nice, tight coils. Once the entire strip is coiled, the amount that you allow the coil to expand will determine the diameter of your basic coil shape. Then use your glue to hold the coil at the size you desire. A teardrop shape is created by pinching a basic coil at one end. Create a marquee shape by pinching your coil at both ends. As you might expect, you can make a diamond by pinching your coil at both ends once and then again. A C-scroll is rolled from both ends to meet in the center. A C-scroll can also be made into a heart by folding the paper strip in half and then coiling both ends. A V-scroll also has a fold in the middle, but instead of coiling inward, the coils roll outward from the center. For an S-scroll, coil from both ends, but in opposite directions. Once you've practiced making these basic shapes, I recommend starting your inner snowflake by making 5 or 6 marquee shapes. Try to make them as close to the same size as possible. Now, practice making the other basic shapes that we talked about before and glue them in different places around your inner snowflake. Once you find a design you like, repeat the pattern all the way around your snowflake. Keep adding shapes until you believe your snowflake is complete. And voila! You now have begun your journey into the ancient art of quilling. Just think of all the hours you can while away with this new hobby. I hope you enjoyed these winter scenes of Fort Stanton Historic Site and learning about the ancient art of quilling. If you make your own quilled snowflakes, please share pictures in the comments section on our Fort Stanton Facebook page. And join us again on December 17th for a holiday program on the tradition of Las Posadas. Until then, stay safe, stay warm, and we hope to see you next year at Fort Stanton Historic Site.